Have you ever heard of a place that refuses to be found until you are already inside? The fog had grown thicker than ever that night. It clung to the ground like a living thing, curling around the wheels of Lara's old black car as she drove down a road that didn't appear on any map. It was supposed to be a shortcut, a forgotten road locals whispered about but avoided, Old Hollow Lane. Lara didn't believe in stories. She believed in practicality, in facts. And that's why she was driving alone through the forest, rain tapping softly on her windshield, the headlights piercing only a few feet ahead. But then, without warning, her car jerked, the engine coughed, and died. All around her the world fell silent. No crickets, no wind, just rain, and that dense, unnatural fog. She stepped out slowly. The air was colder than it should have been. Her breath came out in visible wisps. She wrapped her coat tighter. That's when she saw it. Through the fog, barely visible, was a house, old, tall, and made entirely of blackened wood. It stood at the edge of the forest, as though waiting for her. A light flickered in one of the upstairs windows. It was strange. She was certain it hadn't been there before. And yet now, it looked as though it had always been there. Like it had been waiting for someone to come close enough to see it. Despite every instinct whispering turn back, Lara felt her feet move forward. She didn't know it yet, but the house beyond the fog had chosen her. And it never lets anyone leave. The wooden steps creaked beneath Lara's boots as she approached the porch. The fog wrapped around her like a second skin, clinging tighter the closer she got to the door. She paused for a moment, staring at the iron handle. It looked rusted, yet cold, as if it had just been touched. She raised her hand slowly and knocked. Silence. She tried the handle. It turned easily. The door creaked open with a groan that echoed into the dark, yawning hallway ahead. The scent hit her first, musty, wet, and faintly metallic, the kind of smell that speaks of old things, forgotten things. The hallway was dimly lit by a single flickering bulb hanging from the ceiling. The wallpaper was torn in long strips, curling like old paper. A grandfather clock stood at the far end, ticking, though its hands pointed to 12 clocks, both hands straight up. But the most unsettling part? There were portraits lining the walls. Dozens of them. All of them of people with wide, staring eyes, and yet their faces looked blurred, like the details had been scratched out by invisible fingers. Some were missing entire parts of their heads. Others had eyes that looked too real. Too wet. And then she saw it. Her own face, in a frame at the very end of the hallway. Her breath caught. How? It was her. Same dark jacket, same tired expression, and just below the frame, engraved into the tarnished gold, Lara, the last guest. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt, but with each step, the floor groaned like it hated her presence. The air got colder, thicker, as if time itself were resisting her motion. There sat an old rusted music box, closed, untouched. She turned around. The door behind her was gone, not closed, gone. In its place, a solid wall of rotting wood. The house had sealed her in. And the clock had started ticking. Tick, tock. The sound was louder now. Louder than it should have been. Each tick felt like it was echoing inside Lara's skull, syncing with her heartbeat. She stumbled back from the portrait, her portrait, and tried to blink it away like a dream. But the hallway stretched longer than before. It had grown. What was once a few feet now seemed like an endless corridor, lined with more and more portraits, twisting, disturbing ones. A child with no mouth. A man grinning far too wide, his teeth drawn on with blood-red paint. A woman with a mirror where her face should be, and every few steps, The walls seemed to breathe. She tried to run. Then a whisper, so faint, it barely reached her ears. "Lara." She spun around. No one. "Lara, come closer." The voice was female, familiar and terrifying. It was coming from behind the wall. She pressed her hand to the wood. It felt warm, alive. Then a low knock echoed from the other side. Knock, knock, knock. Before she could react, a loud shatter broke the silence. The mirror in one of the portraits exploded, shards flying across the hallway, slicing the air. But they didn't fall. They hovered, like they were caught in some unseen force. Then they began to form a shape in midair. A word, just one word: stay. Lara backed away, her breath ragged now. She could feel something moving in the shadows behind the portraits, crawling, observing. The hallway ahead now showed a light, a warm, flickering one. A fireplace. An exit or a trap? She stepped forward anyway, because in the house beyond the fog, standing still was worse than moving forward. The flickering light danced just ahead, always visible, always out of reach. Lara followed it, her breath fogging in the cold air as she moved past the portraits. They no longer looked like paintings, but like windows, and behind each one, something was moving, watching, smiling, waiting. The light grew closer, warmer. She entered a room at the end of the hallway. It was a grand old parlor, lit by a single fireplace. Antique furniture was arranged neatly, but covered in dust so thick it looked like ash. A velvet armchair sat directly in front of the fire, rocking gently, though no one was in it. Then came the ticking again, tick-tock. The sound was no longer from a clock. It was inside the walls, inside the floor, inside her. She turned her gaze to the mantel above the fireplace. But it was playing. The melody was slow, haunting. And then it spoke, not the box. The song. Standing in the doorway was a child, barefoot, pale, and soaked with fog. "You'll wake them up," the girl said, her voice hollow. "And once they're awake, they'll want to play." Lara's heart thudded so loudly she could barely hear herself speak. "Who are you?" The child didn't answer. She pointed to the music box. "Your name is in there." Lara blinked. "What do you mean?" But the girl was gone. Only her fog remained, and the music box had stopped. The silence that followed was too loud, too final. She reached out and opened the lid. Inside was not music, not a ballerina, but a tiny folded note. She unfolded it with trembling fingers. 4 words were scribbled in red ink. "You've been here before." And then the fire went out. It whispered in lyrics only Lara could understand, about secrets buried, about a family long lost, about a girl trapped in a house that fed on memory. Lara stepped toward it. Her fingers hovered above the lid. "Don't open it," said a voice behind her. She froze. Darkness swallowed the room whole. Not the kind of darkness that came with night, but a heavier one, as if the walls themselves had inhaled the light. Lara stumbled back, clutching the note. The silence throbbed like a heartbeat around her. That message, "You've been here before," echoed in her mind, louder than any scream. Then came a creak, soft, slow, from behind her. She turned. One of the portraits had fallen. Beneath it was not cracked plaster, but a hidden door. It was inviting her, with a thin trail of mist slithering out like a snake, or warning her. Her body moved before her mind caught up. She stepped through it and into a spiral staircase winding down into the depths of the house. Each step creaked underfoot. The air was colder, damper. The deeper she went, the more time lost meaning. Her fingers traced the stone walls, rough and wet, as whispers started again. This time it wasn't the house. It was memories. Her mother calling her name in a tone laced with sorrow. Her own childhood voice, laughing, then screaming. A door at the bottom waited, iron, heavy. It opened before she touched it. Inside was a room that didn't belong in any house. It was circular, walls covered with mirrors, each one reflecting a different version of her. One crying, one smiling with blood dripping from her lips. At the center stood a tall, cracked pedestal. Upon it lay a small porcelain doll. It wore a dress identical to the one Lara wore when she was 7. Its glass eyes stared straight into hers. The whispers silenced. A man's voice echoed now, deep and slow. You left her here, and now she wants you back. Suddenly, the mirrors began to ripple like disturbed water. The versions of Lara inside them started to move on their own, reaching out, clawing at the glass. The doll's mouth opened. A whisper escaped from it like smoke. Sleep now, and remember. Lara tried to scream, but her voice was lost. The walls of the room pulsed, and the fog returned, this time inside her head. Then everything went black. But in that blackness she remembered. The accident, the house, the pact. She was never just a visitor. She was the offering. When Lara opened her eyes, she was standing outside the house again. Same fog, same silence. But this time, she remembered everything. She was 10 when it had happened. Her family had visited this village during a quiet summer. The villagers warned them not to stay past sundown, not to approach the house on the hill. But curiosity, or something darker, had lured them. And that night she and her sister had entered. Only Lara came out, but she had forgotten everything until now. The pact was simple. One stays, one leaves, one forgets, until the memory returns, her sister, and the cycle doll must begin again. Her memories, the whispers. This fog wasn't fog at all. It was memory, thick and alive, keeping the house sealed off from the world. And now she had remembered. The door creaked open behind her, slow, deliberate. The same voice, low and hollow. She waits where time sleeps. Trade your place, or walk away again. Lara looked back at the house. Her feet moved. It didn't look threatening now, just sad, lonely. Not away, but forward. Back up the steps. Back into the hallway. Back toward the mirror room, where a small porcelain figure waited on the pedestal. She sat beside the doll, brushing its hair like she used to, and whispered, I remember now. The doll blinked. The mirrors cracked, and the house exhaled, as if it had been holding its breath for years. Outside, a foggy silhouette of a child stepped out onto the hill, barefoot, free. The curse was broken, for now. But only until the house called again, because some houses don't forget, and some memories